Hey everybody, John and Katie here with Grizzle Group. I'm Katie, this is my brother John, and today we're going to talk about appraisals. So the appraisal is involved in any real estate transaction in which the buyer is getting a loan. So the buyer's lender orders the appraisal because, of course, the bank wants to make sure that the home they're lending on is worth the purchase price.
Exactly. And so anytime you're getting a loan, this is going to be involved. You could even hypothetically order your own appraisal if you're a cash buyer, but that's very unlikely. Most of the time, if you're cash, you're not getting an appraisal involved. Appraisal is just a third party's opinion of value. They're going to come in, they're going to have an inspection, they're going to walk through the house, they're going to talk to usually the listing agent and sort of have a discussion about comps. But at the end of the day, it's their opinion. And they're going to come in with a number, and the underwriter and the lender is going to utilize that to figure out next steps. So it's an important part of a transaction, and we only have so much control in where that number ends up. But it's important to note that if you order 3 or 4 appraisals, hypothetically, you're probably going to get 3 or 4 numbers. So it's important to not get too fixated on what that number is. I would say almost most of the time, the appraisal is going to come in right at value, which can be a really weird feeling when you're like, well, wait a second. I am in escrow at $1 million and it came in right at $1 million. How did that happen? Could it be exactly that number? Well, it's sort of like in a court case where it's innocent until proven guilty. The appraiser knows what the value is, and they go into the comps and essentially try to disprove or be able to find the comps that back up that $1 million number, for example, which is why most of the time it's going to come in right at $1 million. Once in a while, it'll come in above. Once in a while, it comes in below. And really, it's when it comes in below where there can be a problem.
So what do you do if you're a buyer and the appraisal comes in low? Well, first and foremost, we always recommend having an appraisal contingency in place because that allows you to cancel the transaction, get your deposit back, in the event that the appraisal comes in too low and you're not able to come up with a solution. We just came out of a market where waiving the appraisal contingency was pretty darn normal, and we're very happy to say that seems to be going away now. Demand is lower, we're not seeing as much competitive situations, and so we're always recommending that our buyers maintain that appraisal contingency so they have options. So what are the other 2 options for buyers?
So essentially, you're allowed to enter into a negotiation during the escrow process if the home does not appraise at value. The seller isn't going to know right off the bat whether it appraises or not. That's up to the buyer to determine whether they want to enter that conversation. So if it appraises at $950 on a $1 million sale, then there's a $50,000 gap there. And oftentimes a buyer will say, look, if you reduce it $25,000 to $975, we will pony up another $25,000 to put the deal together. Or you can say, look, the appraised value is frankly the appraised value. You need to come down to $950,000, and if you don't, we're willing to walk. On the seller side, it's a negotiation. They're having discussions with their agent of like, well, if we let this deal walk, what are the chances that we're going to be back in escrow at the same price? If you've got backup offers, that seller is going to be pretty aggressive and may come back and say, we're not reducing the price at all. If you don't like it, we'll go with the next buyer who's maybe a cash buyer or a higher down payment where the appraised value is not going to be as big of a factor. Other thing to note, if you're a buyer and the property appraises above asking, you don't have to tell the seller that. And so that's just so you know, sometimes I've seen that happen where a buyer is really concerned about what happens if it appraises over that number. Do I have to spend more, I have to pay more money because of that? You don't.
No, that's just built-in equity right off the bat. So that's pretty much it for appraisals. It's very important that you have a good advisor, working with you during these negotiations. And if you have any other questions for us, you know where to find us.
Yeah, there's a lot more we could talk about. I mean, you can have appraisals reordered if you don't like the appraisal. You can have loans restructured. There's a lot of things you can do behind the scenes to keep a deal together. A lot of creative approaches. But before your eyes glaze over, if you have more questions, just reach out to us and we can continue to provide that value. Thanks, guys.
Bye.